Hey, what's going on everyone? This is Mike Kollin at MikeKollin.com. Okay, so today I'm going to introduce you to eye accessing cues. I'm also going to go over submodalities in a slightly different way. Now, why? Because I think if you haven't seen eye accessing cues, I think you're going to find it really interesting. So another reason is I'm going to bring something up that came up on social media that I read, and it was really a distinct, like one person wrote something that was just felt really good. It was positive, it was smooth, the energy flowed, and then the next person, what they wrote, it was like this heavy weight. So the reason I'm saying that is we unconsciously and on accident, we will express things and communicate things that make us feel tired and slowed down, or like we can't do something. And this is all an illusion in your mind. It's actually quite a very simple illusion. It's not some deep, psychological in the recesses of your mind. It's actually, when I point out, you're like, oh, I do that. It's like, it's pretty prevalent, or becomes pretty obvious. Okay, so first let's talk about eye accessing cues. This is something I was trained in during, I believe we learned this in practitioner, neuro-linguistic programming. So I'm going to re-show this image without it moving in a second, but I wanted you to get to look at it. So you've got visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and then to the right it should say AD, auditory, digital. I don't know why they don't have the D on there. So we unconsciously access different file cabinets of information in our unconscious mind by looking up, left, up to the right, looking left, or looking directly to right, or looking down and to the right and down and to the left. Okay, now this one page alone is a training in and of itself, because there's a lot of uses that you can do with it. Okay, so I'm generally just going to give you an idea of what it is. So you can use this to gain rapport with people. So if someone looks up and to the right, that's VC, so that's visual construct. That's when they're constructing images, making up images in their mind, okay? And when someone's looking up and to the left, that's visual remember. That's when they're accessing images that they remembered. So all the way to the right is auditory construct, to the left auditory remembered, and down and to the right is kinesthetic. That's when someone's accessing their emotions and feelings. Okay, now down and to the left, that should have a little D next to it, so that's auditory digital. So if somebody's looking up, I can gain rapport. See, when you match someone, you gain rapport with their unconscious mind. Okay, so one way I could do it, let's say they're looking up, just looking up in general. So they're visualizing. So I'll say, well, when you look at what I'm saying and picture this, and you see what I mean, so those are all visual predicates: look, picture, see. And there's obviously a bunch of them, like bright, shiny, etc. So automatically their unconscious mind, you're kind of even looking like, oh wait, oh, I understand that. Like, and also it's like opening the door to communication. They can understand it a lot easier. So one of the advanced things you can do, if you're comfortable using this, you can sit there and say, as you put that, so if they're looking up and to the right, you could say, as you construct that picture or build the picture, you could say, as you're putting the pieces of that picture together, because that's what visual construct is. You're constructing an image in your mind. You could even say, when you construct that image in your mind, blah, 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 and their unconscious mind would look at you like, wow, this guy, and they might even go, wow, is this guy reading my mind? Like, no, I'm just looking at your eye accessing cues. So what a lot of people will do if they're very visual, they'll look up, left, and then to the right, because they're pulling up visual memories, images from the visual memory, remembered, and then they'll bring it over to visual construct if they're constructing a speech or something that they want to say to you. So with auditory, this is when people are very auditory when they're giving a speech. So when people do a speech, they remember their speech. Okay, they'll spend a couple days or a week to memorize a presentation, and then as they speak, they'll look left to go to remember the auditory words. Okay, but then if you've ever given a presentation, it's never completely memorized, because you notice the crowd didn't quite understand something. So then you'll carry over to the right and you're going to construct something new that you want to say. So you'll go left, right, left, right. Now the bottom two, those can be switched. Usually a left-handed person has those flipped, so that you would take the kinesthetic, the K, put it on the other side, the A on the other side. But that's not always true. That's normally, but there's some left-handed people that are what we call normally organized on the bottom. So now, when someone's looking down and to the right, if it's a normally organized person, they're accessing their emotions and feelings, and they'll use words like get, feel, emotion, touch. Those are kinesthetic feeling words. So the number one problem that when men come to me for dating relationship coaching is they have a very hard time accessing their emotions. Now, it's not quite as easy as what I'm going to say. It kind of is, though, if you can do it right, is to have them look down and to the right, and it helps them to access their emotions. Most men look to their auditory digital. That's your thinking brain, where you use logical words, like computer, digital, logical, that makes sense. That's all very left brain, which is the male brain thing. So they have to learn how to open up to their emotions. And one of the things is an exercise I use using this chart, having them continually access their kinesthetics. I'll anchor it in, I'll shift submodalities, I'll do all kinds of things to really get them to access this, so when they're connecting with their wife, they can connect on an emotional level. So I'm just adding this really out of interest. As I said, this really takes a good hour to 2 hours to break this down and explain it, but you get the gist of it. So here's what you can do for now. If somebody is looking up to the left or right, you can be like, oh, they're constructing an image, or they are remembering an image, okay? In auditory, left and right is construct and auditory remember, etc. Down to the right is kinesthetic, down to the left is auditory digital, which is when they're in their thinking brain. They use words like thinking, that makes sense, that's logical. Now you can use these eye patterns and watch what they do by asking specific questions to elicit their unconscious strategies for the way they do stuff. You can also elicit for like an unconscious pattern strategy that they're doing, they're not aware of, that's blocking them on a psychological level. And then you can go, oh, okay, I see where the block is, and then you can go in there and you can shift it. So obviously right now I'm getting into advanced stuff. I'm not even getting close to even describing that. What I'm trying to do, number one, is give you an idea of just, now this, by the way, this is a very basic page. This is in the practitioner. This is one of the first things we learn, okay? And this is just one page of, I don't know, maybe 400 pages in the practitioner manual. Maybe it's not that many. Maybe it's like 300 pages. So there's a lot. And each page is like an hour to 2 hours of just learning that. Now this page, you have to learn rapport skills also to connect with this, and then a couple other things. So it's, each piece connects with another piece. So number one, all I'm trying to do is give you an idea of what am I doing when I'm working with clients in my coaching sessions. Okay, this is just one of the things I may do. Another thing is, it's kind of fun for you to watch people look up, whether it's to the left and right, and go, yeah, I see what you mean. Or look left and right, so yeah, I hear what you're saying, because those are auditory words: hear, say, tell, talk, listen, sound. And then kinesthetic is like, yeah, I get what you mean, man. I get it, man. I can get a hold of that concept. These are physical, emotional, I feel what you're saying, I feel it, I get it. These are, you can grab a hold of these concepts. It's like you're physically feeling and grabbing and touching. And again, auditory digital down to the left is they say that's logical, that makes sense, let me think about it. And so all I'm trying to say is, it's kind of a fun thing to watch people, because most people never notice that people do eye accessing cues. So essentially, when we shift up, down, left, right, what we're doing is, it's like a file cabinet of information that we're opening up, and we're accessing, we're reaching in and pulling out different bits of information. So this is how we access information inside our system. So for now, just have fun with this stuff. So now we're going to shift over to submodalities. Oh, and yes, these eye accessing cues that I just showed you, those are different ways that show me what submodalities that you're shifting to. So it gives me an idea of, again, see, like I said, like this submodalities is its own complete training, but these two combine also. Okay, so there's a bunch of things that combine with each other. Okay, so let's go directly into submodalities, and then I'm going to give you some examples afterward that I believe you're going to like. So like I'm looking at a page of checklist, right? So it says submodalities checklist. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Okay. So here's the deal. Visual is, let's say, is like self in or out of the picture. So let's say that you're like, well, I picture it. I'm like, okay, well, do you see yourself in the picture or are you out of it? That can have a huge impact, because if you're in the picture, that's called dissociated, okay? So if you're dissociated, well, you're not really feeling the feelings. You're disconnected. But if you're in the picture, like you're standing in the movie, like the picture is around you, you're inside of it, you are what we call dissociated. So now you're seeing, hearing, feeling, smelling, tasting. So let's say you're setting a goal. So a lot of you is like, yeah, you know, whenever I set goals or do goal setting, it doesn't work for me, Mike. It's probably because you're not associated. So that's one of the number one things that I will work with my clients, is just teaching them, hey man, here's how you associate. So when you're associated, you're connected to your emotions, which means you're connected to your power. Because remember, emotions are what create manifestations. It's like putting gasoline in the car. The gasoline is equivalent to emotions. The emotions are the fuel to manifestation. Now that's just one submodality out of about, I think this is about probably 30 submodalities on this page. So here's the deal. When I'm working with you, obviously I can help you work through this a lot faster because I know what to look for and I know how to shift the submodalities. So that's something you're not going to have to worry about. So I'm going to teach you some things that you can do immediately. So let me just go down this list real quick. So we're on visual. The second one is it framed or is it panoramic? So that's another way, like let's say like memories that are memories in the past, it might be framed, whereas current memories, like something that you're thinking about right now or something that's in the moment, might be panoramic, or it could be flipped. Another one is color or black and white. Another one is bright. Is it bright or is it dim? You know, what's the size of the picture? Small, medium, large, extra large? Is it far, etc.? Size of central objects in the picture. The location. Is it up, down, left, upper left, lower left? So these are the eye accessing cues we're talking about, right? Are you looking down and to the right looking at a picture? Is it 3D, three-dimensional, or is it a flat image? Intensity of color, degree of contrast. So is there contrast? Is there some? Is there a lot? That can absolutely shift your emotions and feelings. Is it still frame or is it in motion? Is there movement? Is it fast? Is it slow? Is there focus? Is it focused on all or on parts? Is there intermittent or steady focus? Angle viewed from? Number of pictures? Do they shift? Do they rotate? Is there anything else that stands out visually? Okay. Then you've got auditory. The volume. Is it high, medium, or low? Because the volume inside your head could absolutely affect your emotions. It could affect how you're setting your goals. It's like, well, yeah, there's volume, but when you turn it up, all of a sudden, yes, that's how I know when I'm going to achieve my goal, because I can feel it better when the volume's louder. So let's go from there. It's what about the inflection, the cadence, the interruption? Is there groupings? How about the rhythm? Is it regular? Is it irregular? Is there inflections? Are there words that are marked out? Do they really stand out? The tempo, the pauses, pitch, tone, tonality, the timbre, the quality. Location, is it, maybe you might hear, like, I used to hear a voice when I was talking about, not hear a voice, but like whenever I thought about my mom talking to me, it was always in the back and up to the right. And by the way, that was not a good, that meant not good. So if someone was talking to me and I get that, like that voice coming from that location, something tells me like, hey, something's not right here. I don't like this. This is not a good situation. See, this is your unconscious mind talking to you. Okay, so that's one of my cues. It's like when it's as if someone's coming from the rear and up and right behind my head. I know right away, like, okay, radar, turn your radar system on, pay attention, something's up. So this is one of the reasons why I'm a very intuitive person, especially when I'm tuned in. It's not only just that, but I know, like, hey, I know different things and thoughts and where locations where auditory is coming from, and that lets me know, like, okay, this is going to be a good situation. See, your unconscious mind is a massive, massive, massive computer that has massive amounts of information. It knows a lot more than your logical thinking brain, which really only processes 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information, which means 5 up to 9 bits of information on average for the average person, okay? So that's very little compared to the billions and maybe even trillions of bits of information that the unconscious mind can process in a moment's notice. So you've got location, uniqueness of sound, the direction it's coming from, the duration, how long. Is it internal, like is it coming from inside? Maybe it's an internal dialogue. Is it external? Etc. And then you got kinesthetic. You've got temperature. Kinesthetic means your feelings, your emotions. So you've got temperature, texture, vibration, pressure. All right, I'm going to be really, okay, I don't know if I should share this with you. All right, so I had this client. He was a really cool guy, a really nice guy, classy guy. But he said this to me one day when we were walking, going to a store, and it kind of caught me off guard, but I don't know if I should say, okay, it's kind of it's the way that he knew that a girl liked him, and it was, I'm sorry, I'm going to spit out there, please forgive me. So I'm going down the list here, and I came down to, where is it, where to go, pressure, so vibration. So I'm going to say it this way. He told me, he goes, I always know when a girl likes me. I go, how do you know? He goes, I get a vibration in that, and he didn't say it like this, but in that certain place. So I'm like, are you serious? He goes, dude, I swear. He goes, this is how I absolutely know that a girl likes me and I can ask her out. Now that was new to me. I've never heard of that before, but anyways, let's move on. Okay, so for some of you, I want you to, I'm sure you guys can, if you relate to some of these, so it might be your intuition, your gut feeling. So we're going down kinesthetic. You might get temperature, warmer, cooler, texture, vibration. You might get a pressure in your heart, or maybe your heart lightens up, or anywhere. It could be your stomach, your gut, your body, your head. You might feel a movement in your body. There might be a duration or length of time that lasts. It could be a steady, intermittent feeling, and it's also the intensity. Is it sharp? Is it strong? Is it not so intense? Size, shape, the weight of it. So it could be like you have a feeling in your gut. It's like a circular ball, and it's smooth and it's soft, and that's how you know you have a good feeling about someone. Versus if it's hard and it's kind of has sharp points, like on a square. And it might even, you say, yeah, it's kind of square. And that might be a way that lets you know, like, hey, something's not feeling, something's kind of stuck here, like, and it's kind of a sharp feeling. So it might be something you got to adjust, you might have to fix, or you may not have rapport with someone, and how you know is you get this kind of square block in your gut area, like this feeling. And again, like I said, it might be light or heavy, so weight is another submodality, okay? Another one, is it an internal feeling or is it an external feeling, like on the outside of your body versus a feeling inside? Okay, so now that you have a pretty strong idea of what submodalities are, these are just different ways that our body accesses information, and it's how it communicates to us, okay? Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to someone you may or may not know. To me, she's just the cutest little lady, just the most beautiful young lady in the world. Not necessarily because of her looks, but because of, and I'll show you a picture. She is the Princess of Spain. She is right here in a coronation. She is basically signing, I forget what the terminology, but she's basically confirming her loyalty to the crown, etc., etc. Now, normally, I am not into royalty at all. But this young lady is different. Now, when I first saw her on social media, I just thought, why is this popping up on my social media? I thought, yeah, she's cute, she's beautiful, etc. But, you know, as I began to, I want to say learn the story, but it's really not the story. It was what I saw. In fact, there was no story. It's just there's music showing her walking to and fro and going in cars and, shaking hands with other dignitaries and, like the signing of this coronation of signing, etc. And what it was it was the way her mother and father, the king and queen, absolutely doted on her and her sister. Like, if her hair wasn't right, the mother would just fix it really quick. This is while they're all lined up in front of a crowd and people are taking pictures and or being introduced to, other members of royal society in other countries, etc. Like the mother, and I was just like, wow. And the father, the king, sorry, when he looks at his daughters, he's so proud. So I've watched a lot of these videos, and the mother and the father are just so proud of their daughters. It honestly brings me to tears, because what you see is so healthy and so loving, and the mother and father they are just beaming with pride. They're just so joyful with their daughters and happy, and they dote on them and in a really beautiful way. And the daughters are just they look to each other for support. The way the mother and father look at their daughters is this intensity of love. It is, you might be thinking, oh, it's about perfection. No, when you see them smile, when you see them moving and walking, it is just, they love their daughters. They're protecting their daughters. It's this intensity of love that you can't even imagine. So at first I thought, oh, this is just a couple of videos and they're on their best behavior. And then I just watched a lot of these little clips because they just keep popping up in the shorts. And I was like, these parents love their daughters. And so there's two reasons why I'm bringing this up. There was two comments that were made, which is about submodalities, but I want to share this part first. For those of you who've gone through narcissist abuse, you know what it's like to be torn down and destroyed and stabbed in the back and talked badly about. When you see this family and the way they look out for each other, the way they're unified, it's not just, it's from love, it's from their heart. To me, it gives hope for the world, and this young lady is next in line to be the queen to eventually to rule over Spain. She has the combination of being strong, beautiful, intelligent, and very heart-centered, in that I don't know, explain. She loves her people. I don't really know how to put into words. To me, it gives hope for the world, because you watch this family like, wow, I've never seen a family like this. I mean, you look at the king and queens of England. It's not like this. I mean, this is a very loving, doting family, and it makes you look like, because she's the next in line, and it makes you look at the future and think, maybe this is what the future is going to be about. I'm going to make a prophecy / prediction, because this feeling that I have inside is so overwhelming and strong. What I just described, I'm not even coming close to describing what I'm trying to describe. There's something unique about this family, and I believe there's something about her that is going to impact the world. The reason why I say this is because every time I watch these videos of this family, it's an overwhelming level of emotion that just overcomes me. It is incredible. So there has to be something else going on than just a loving family. Okay, so what had happened was, on the right of this short, so these shorts are like 60 seconds or 90 seconds or whatever. So I put a clip in here, made a copy of an image. So now watch this. So the first person says, "This is the first time I've seen a powerful girl exude such lovely friendliness." And that really captures what I was trying to say. It's like she's powerful, but she's so friendly, and there's love in there. And he says, I hope she will do her role well for her country. Now that just feels good. So this is the first time I've seen a powerful girl exude such lovely friendliness. Hope she will do her role well for a good country. Now, remember, submodalities can make you feel emotions. They can block you psychologically. They can make you feel like, oh, I can't do this. You know, when you shift submodalities, all of a sudden, boom, you're hitting home runs. You're knocking people out. You are winning. You are succeeding. And it's all it is it's just a submodality shift. Oh, by the way, if you did not watch the video just before this one, go back and watch that one. It's very important because it absolutely applies to this video. Now let's read the second one. Beautiful girl with a beautiful smile. Now also have the big responsibility on her shoulder to do. Now look at that submodality. Also have big responsibility where? On her shoulders, like this weight is weighing her down. If she listens to the second person, her reign as queen will be a burden. It'll be exhausting. By the time she's 30 years old, she's going to want to quit. Now I know what you're thinking. Oh, come on, Mike. It can't be that. It is. Now here's how Now again, this was one of the things, submodalities, where I thought, whatever, that's not real, because I didn't believe it for years until college speech class. So here I was, speech one, first day. We had to give like the goal was 5 minutes. I spoke for, I think it was a whole 11 seconds, and then I sat down out of embarrassment. So about a week later, I remembered submodalities and how powerful they could be. I thought, oh, it can't be that easy. But I remember I was in the hallway thinking, what the hell do I have to lose? So usually when you're afraid of stuff, it's because in your mind's eye, you blow it up and make it big. So in NLP, they say, hey, for speeches, shrink it down, shrink the people in the crowd all the way down and push them all the way back to the very back far wall. And if the wall's not that far, imagine it's even farther. So you get to imagine this in your head. Now, back then, like, this isn't going to frickin' work. Come on. So here I am about a week later, whatever it was, and like class is about to start. I'm in the hallway going, geez, what do I do? So the other thing they said is shrink them up super small, like not even an inch. Make it like 1 millimeter, like little tiny, like the size of a BB or something, really small. And then put a big, cute, like cartoon smile on their face and make their voice very cute. And they're so sweet, you know. And imagine their voices being like that, and then make them colorful, like cartoon characters. And remember, they're already far away, and they're all the way on the ground. They're really tiny and small. So I did this. So I went into class, and I did it before I got up and sat down. In fact, I did it in the hallway first. And I imagined that, and then I did it when I was sitting down, and then I stood up when I handed the teacher my paper, what my presentation was going to be about. I looked back, and I did it again. I even shrunk up the teacher, and I shoved her all the way out there, because our speech teacher was actually kind of intimidating. So even while I was doing it in the hallway, sitting down, and when I was first standing up there, handing her the paper, and I looked out, and I did it, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work, and I kind of just like, whatever, man. Now here's the deal. I avoided speech class in high school, and because of that, I had to do it in college. My number one biggest fear? Speech. Literally, I was airborne infantry. I would rather jump out of a plane than speak in front of a group of people. I could step into a crowd of 10,000 people in a kickboxing match, a boxing match, wrestling, football, but give a speech in front of 20 or 30 people? Oh, hell no. So I started to speak, and I got into it, and I started to really get into it. I kind of forgot, that I was in front of people, and I was really, doing the presentation, etc., etc. So after about 13 or 14 minutes, the teacher goes, Michael, stop. I'm like, but I'm not done. And she goes, Michael, it was only supposed to be a 7-minute presentation. I'm like, well, how long has it been? She goes, it's almost 15 minutes. I was like, oh, do you want me to finish? She goes, no, Michael, you did really good. Sit down. And everyone just I remember I looked at everyone. They were like, what? Like their mouths were dropped, and they all started clapping for me. It was and I kind of like, why are they clapping? And so I didn't really, I didn't make the connection that I gave a speech for over 10 minutes without even thinking about it. So at the end of the year, I ended up doing a debate, the final debate to win. against a guy who had a 5-year scholarship to go to University of Colorado for their speech and debate team out there. And I beat him, hands down. He even came as, man, he goes, you kicked my ass. And the teacher goes, Michael, you did a really, really good job. So she was the one who did the points and everything. Now, she let the students do it, but she did the points too. And she's like, no, Michael beat him on this, on this, on this, on this. And what ended up happening was she goes, stay up here, Michael. I'm like, okay. She goes, Michael, like, what happened? I'm like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't make the connection yet that day that when I did that submodality shift, that it made any difference. I remember after class thinking, yeah, that didn't work, but it did work because I didn't worry at all. So she goes, do you remember your first speech? I'm like, no. She goes, do you remember how long you talked? I'm like, I think it was supposed to be like a 3-minute speech or something like that, or 5 minutes, so 3 minutes or so. She goes, no, 11 seconds. I was like, what? And the whole class was like, yeah, you got up there, said a couple things. And one girl, you sat right down. You were embarrassed. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. She goes, so what happened? I'm like, I don't know. And here's the deal. I still couldn't remember what made the shift. So I remember I went to lunch after class, and it was in the back of my mind. I'm thinking, like what? And I was like, oh, it was the submodality shift. So that's how powerful this can be. So let me give you a couple therapeutic examples of some of the first clients. In fact, the first one was my very, very, very first client. So it was a young lady. I remember she was about 26 or so. I think she might have been a little bit older than me at the time. And she came over, she saw my ad, and I'm like, okay, so what's the problem? She's like, well, I work at this job, and it's really important. I love my job. I make good money. So she was like in the corporate world. I was like, okay, so what's the problem? She goes, well, I can't really handle criticism anymore when people try to mess with me. I'm like, well, what do you mean? So when people would try to, bully her and, just be mean to her, etc., she go, and I go, so well, what was it like before? She goes, honestly, I didn't even notice it. I didn't care. It didn't bother me at all. Now, I'm thinking, oh, you're so full of it. Because even me, I was just like, dude, I get intimidated, like, if someone messes with me, like, easily. So she goes, no, I'm telling you, like, it didn't bother me at all. I'm like, well, like, how long has it been like that? She goes, my whole life. I'm like, well, what do you mean? I don't understand. I go, like, did someone teach you something? And because, all of us grew up when someone tried to verbally, abuse us or embarrass us or, just tease us, or not even tease, but intimidate us. And she's like, no. She goes, honestly, I did not give a shit. She goes, I was like, so what changed? She goes, I don't know. And so at this point, I'm kind of stressing, going, fuck, this is my first client, first session ever. This is way back in the 90s. And I'm like, okay, so what was it like before? She goes, well, I told you, it just didn't bother me. I'm like, so now I'm going, okay, submodality. So there has to be something that shifted. So I said, okay, so what's the difference between now and then? I go, does it feel the same now? She goes, no, of course not. I'm stressed. I'm tight. I'm uptight. I'm like, okay, so what was it like before? She goes, and she instantly relaxed. And that's how I know she was associated into it. So I anchored her. I don't think I snapped my finger. I think I might have touched my nose 3 times or did something like that. I don't remember exactly what I did. I might have touched my chin in a certain way, so that will link it up. So I don't even need to hear her say what was different. I just need to see her shift into a really relaxed, because she was saying I used to be really relaxed, this and that. And then when I said, what was that like? Then she associated, and I knew she was going to associate after the question, because that you do it unconsciously. And the minute she went into that state of mind, I anchored it in. So then as she started talking about it, I anchored it again and again. This is called stacking anchors to make it really powerful, because you want a powerful stacked anchor to collapse the other negative anchor into this. So now it triggers off this state of mind. So here's what she said. And as she's saying it, I'm continuing to anchor this. So she said, well, it was like, it was just smooth. It was easy. Like it just, like didn't land on me. I go, what do you mean didn't land on you? She goes, well, it's like water off a duck's back. Now I'm thinking this is just too easy. So as she's saying it's like water, and I could look in her eyes like she was associated, you could tell by the way the eyes dilated. And I anchored that in some more, like water off a duck. And I even repeated, I said, so it's like water off a duck's back. And I literally repeated the tone, the tempo, the rhythm, the way she said it. And she looks at him, she goes, yeah, just like that. So now all I had to do was say, okay, well, so what's it like now? And the minute she goes into that uptight state, I fire off the anchor of water off a duck's back. That state of relaxation. I just anchor that and fire it off, because now the anchor of her even thinking about getting uptight got instantly linked to when I fired off the positive anchor. So now those are linked. So the minute something happens like that, the minute she imagines someone saying something negative to her, it's like water off a duck's back. And I go, how do you feel now? She goes, well, that's weird. I don't feel it anymore. I'm like, sure you did. You walked in the room. And she's like, yeah, I know, but okay, this is weird. So when she walked in, she was really stressed and she was not happy. So I go, well, try to, think about it again. I go, really? And here's the deal. You can have them associate. So once you got the positive anchor connected to this, you could have them associate. And then she's like, I can't go there. I go, so what happened? She goes, well, just like water off a duck's back. I'm like, really? So that took me a whole 45 minutes. And by the way, I didn't tell you, she was on anti-anxiety pills. She was going to a psychiatrist. She'd been doing this, I think she said, for 2 years or some point. I forget how long she said this was going on. But it was quite a while. And so, God, what was I going to say? Well, I will say this. One thing that they tell us in NLP is like, look, it's like a mechanic. You either know how to fix it or you don't. You wouldn't take your car to a mechanic that would go, well, I don't know if I can fix it, but, I'll take a look at it, but I'm still going to charge you $125 an hour whether I fix it or not. You're like, hell no. You want to take it to a mechanic that says, yeah, I can fix that. So here's what Dr. Tad James and what the NLP people will tell you is like, look, you either know how to fix it or you don't. So this young lady had been in therapy and also seen a psychiatrist for I think it was 2 years. It might have been 12 months, but it was a year plus. And the thing about it is, I fixed it in 45 minutes. All it is and was a submodality shift that had to go back to the way it was. And I took a shortcut. I just shifted the submodality. And I anchored it in to lock it in. Now, just so you know, this is not energy healing. I didn't do a single form of energy healing on her. This was pure, what I would call mechanical, almost 3D, probably a 3D work. Now, real briefly, let's look at phobia cures, okay? So I had a client that walked in, this was way back then too, and she was absolutely terrified of frogs. In fact, she wouldn't tell me what her problem was, okay? And she's sitting there for after 30 minutes. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to help you if you won't tell me what the problem is? So finally she's like, it's frogs! And she jumps up on the table and instantly broke out in a sweat. And I mean instantly. So she had been seeing therapists and on medication and psychologists, etc. for a long, long time. This was an issue, and I already told you in the past, but she had cut her toe for the first time when she was a little girl, like 3 or 4 years old, and her dad, basically put her foot in a bucket to just kind of pacify her. And she goes, what happened was, I thought I was dying because it wouldn't stop bleeding, and he puts my foot in the water, and she goes, you know how the water made it worse? I'm like, yeah, like it was just blood was everything. Oh my God. And her brothers, while she's thinking she's going to die, threw the frogs in there, and that linked up death to frogs. So from that day forward, anytime she was around frogs, she would just lose it. So that took a little bit longer. That was about an hour and a half, an hour 45 minutes. Maybe not that long, about an hour and a half. It was just, again, I had to reframe a lot of things. And what we're doing with reframing, we're shifting submodalities until the point to where I shifted it to her absolute laughter, and I anchored in laughter hysterical laughter again and again and again. I made the frogs really cute, far away, and they're, "Hi, Brandy, we love you," and little cute things. So I anchored that in, and next thing you know, I go, "Hey, so tell me about frogs." She goes, "Ah," and she couldn't stop laughing. Now her husband didn't think this was real, so he went out and found a frog, and when she wasn't looking, he threw a frog on her, and she grabbed the frog and she starts laughing, and she's holding it, and she's like, "Isn't it so cute?" And he was going, "What the hell?" So he comes over, shakes my hand, he goes, "I don't know what you did, but I used to have to carry her from parties, from the park to the car, because she would just lock up and freeze." But man, did those psychiatrists and psychologists make a lot of money off of her for the last, and I know it was more than 12 years. It was a long time she'd been in therapy for this. Alright guys, so that's it. I wanted to give you an idea, an example, a series of examples of how fast you can actually change. Alright guys, if you like this video, please click subscribe, click the like button, go ahead and make a comment, and if you want, go ahead and make a donation. There's a PayPal link right there in the description box below the video. Alright, see you guys next video. Bye.